Part 54. Adorable Baby, The Miracle Doctor is So Awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 531. Shenyazi released his consciousness and searched everywhere. Fortunately, Fang Hui is still alive. She immediately went down to rescue Fang Hui from a pile of rocks and quickly fed her the rejuvenation pill. Seeing that her breath had calmed down, Shenyazi took her to the ship, and then released several puppets in the space, allowing them to assist him in quickly launching rescue work. They moved the survivors they found to the open space, dissolved the rejuvenation pills in the water, and fed them to them. When Shenyazi found Mrs. Fang and Fang Cheng, the old lady had lost her breath, and even her body had been burned to charcoal by the fire. She maintained the posture of protecting Fang Cheng in her arms until her death. The moment Shenyazi saw it, his eyes couldn't help but get wet, and he stepped forward to carefully move her away from Fang Cheng. Fang Cheng fainted, his little face was blackened by the smoke, but fortunately there were no obvious injuries on his body. Shenyazi collected the old lady's bones, took Fang Cheng aboard the boat, and lay down with Fang Hui. At this time, the government officials rushed over and saw the people lying still alive in the open space. The officials were surprised. Someone jumped in front of them and rescued these people? Shenyazi didn't show up again, so there was no need for her to intervene in what happened next. She sent Fang Hui and Fang Cheng back. Mrs. Jean burst into tears when she saw her two children in a coma. Hui, Cheng what happened to them? Shenyazi said hurriedly, Auntie, they are fine, they just passed out. I have given them medicine. It will take a while before they wake up. That's good, that's good. Mrs. Jean sat down on the bed with her legs weak. She looked at her children and suddenly realized that her mother-in-law had not been brought back. Her heartstrings trembled and she had a bad premonition. I know, where is my mother? Shenyazi was silent. Auntie, the old lady has already gone. She took out Mrs. Fang's body from the space and slowly opened the white cloth covering it. A burnt, curled up body was exposed. Ms. Jean covered her mouth, burst into tears, and knelt down in front of the corpse with a thud. Hold head high dash. Suddenly there was a high-pitched whistle outside. Shenyazi's expression changed and he rushed out. He saw a huge fire dragon flying and circling in the air, spitting out huge fireballs from time to time. Fireballs fell like meteors, and countless houses in the city were on fire. People on the streets ran away in fear. Could this fire dragon be the fire vein under the high platform of Sanhui Tower? Shenyazi set up a formation in the small courtyard. Auntie, take good care of Hui and Ah Cheng. Don't come out. I'll go take a look. Jean chased her out, holding onto the door frame and watching her quickly rise into the air, reaching the same height as the fire dragon. The fire dragon's whole body is made of fire, and its two eyes are two blazing fireballs. The color is darker than the body, and it looks full of violence. Seeing Shenyazi, the fire dragon opened its mouth and a fireball sprayed out. Shenyazi controlled the Tianzhou to avoid it, and consciously led it outside the city. The fire dragon's destructive power is so powerful that fighting in the city will inevitably affect the people below. The fire dragon does not have very high intelligence and was easily led away by her. The frightened people below could not help but breathe a sigh of relief when they saw this. My heart is full of gratitude to Shenyazi, the immortal who faced the fire dragon at the critical moment. I hope the immortal can take away the fire dragon. Everyone secretly encouraged Shenyazi in their hearts. Over a lake dozens of miles outside the city, Shenyazi released the Phoenix True Fire that he had been eager to try for a long time from his Danshan. Phoenix True Fire has a kingly aura as soon as it appears, and a clear roar makes the fire dragon retreat. Although the True Fire Phoenix is not as good as the fire dragon in size, its flame level is far higher than that of the fire dragon. For a time, one phoenix and one dragon were fighting hard to separate each other. Shenyazi retreated far away, holding a handful of spiritual stones in his hand to continuously absorb them, providing spiritual power to the Phoenix True Fire from a distance. She is the master of the Phoenix True Fire, and its combat effectiveness largely depends on the amount of spiritual power she can provide. It is fighting the fire dragon in front, so naturally she cannot hold back. However, the speed of absorbing the spiritual energy in the spiritual stone and converting it into spiritual power was still too slow after all. Seeing the Phoenix True Fire being hit by the fire dragon's claws, and its body became a little lighter, Shenyi knew that this would not work. Suddenly, she sensed that the spirit crystal beast in the space had given birth to a spirit crystal, and it was red. The red spiritual crystal is completely condensed from the fire spiritual energy. As Shenyi thought, the still hot spiritual crystal appeared in her hand. She ran the technique at a high speed, increasing her power to absorb the spiritual energy. With her spiritual attack, the fire phoenix regained its momentum and counterattacked strongly, tearing off a ball of flame from the fire dragon's body with one claw. To put it bluntly, the fire dragon's flame body is actually composed of aura, a fire-based aura. As the aura decreases, the color of its body also decreases. However, the spiritual core in its body is still strong. The fire dragon's spiritual core is like the inner elixir in the body of a monster. It is the condensation of the whole body's spiritual power and cultivation. The spiritual core is in the fire dragon's head. Unless the spiritual core is taken out, the fire dragon will slowly recover no matter how much spiritual energy it loses. Bring it here, Shenyi said to Huofeng in his mind. When the fire dragon roared after the fire phoenix, Shenyi suddenly threw the ever-burning cauldron, pointed it at the fire dragon, and sucked it. Compared to the fire dragon, the ever-burning cauldron was pitifully small. However, once the fire dragon was grabbed by the suction force, he could not break free. He could only watch as he got closer and closer and was swallowed by the mouth of the cauldron. When the last bit of the fire dragon's tail was swallowed up by the Changran cauldron, Shenyi almost collapsed and sat down, leaning against the side of the ship and gasping for air. She was in such a difficult position just now. On the one hand, he has to convey spiritual power to the fire phoenix, and on the other hand, he must use his spiritual consciousness to control the ever-burning cauldron to devour the fire dragon. Performing two tasks, if you are not careful, you may end up overturning. Fortunately, she succeeded in the end. Putting the fire phoenix into his dantian, Shenyi looked at the ever-burning cauldron in his hand and let out a long sigh. The ever-burning cauldron is a divine weapon, and the fire dragon can only be regarded as a spirited fire vein at best. I don't believe it can't be refined. It's just that with her cultivation level, it will take a lot of time to refine it. There was a crashing sound in the ever-burning cauldron. It seemed that the fire dragon was unwilling to be trapped. Shenyi knocked on the cauldron and meditated to restore his spiritual energy. As soon as I opened my eyes, it was night. The night sky full of stars is so beautiful and deep that it can be used as wallpaper. Shenyi admired it quietly for a while and returned to Fang's house a quarter of an hour later. Fang Hui and Fang Cheng have woken up. Both mother and son were awake. They were sitting at the table, keeping vigil for the deceased old lady and waiting for Shenyi. When Shenyi stepped into the house, the mother and son looked over at the same time. This night, Shenyi stayed and spent the most difficult time with the three people of the Fang family. Early the next morning, she said goodbye to the Fang family and went directly to the imperial capital. There is no other way. It is too late to rush back to Mocking City now, and in order not to delay the auspicious time, the dowry fleet had already set off 3 days ago. Shenyi hurriedly along the way, and finally arrived at the imperial capital on the 9th day of August. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 532. The imperial capital, Baikan, Imperial Prefecture. Oh, this place can no longer be called the Imperial Prefect's Mansion. Just over half a month ago, the plaque of National Preceptor's Mansion in front of the door was suddenly taken down and replaced with the plaque of Shen's Mansion. Following this, many people were busy coming in and out of Shen's mansion every day, making a lot of noise. This incident has aroused the curiosity of many people. Even the emperor in the palace heard about it and specially sent the imperial advisor to ask about it. The imperial master simply explained, "I made a bet with an old friend and lost the house to him." An old friend of the national preceptor? He must be an expert from outside the world. The emperor continued to ask questions with great interest, but the imperial master did not want to talk more. Seeing that he could ask no more questions, the emperor had no choice but to let the imperial advisor leave. Then he ordered someone to find a map of the imperial capital and think about choosing a house for the imperial master. The old friend mentioned by the imperial master is naturally Zhang Lingch. More than half a month ago, he entered the imperial capital to find a suitable house for his apprentice so that she could get married. He can't let his precious apprentice get married from the inn, right? That's too low. After wandering around the wealthy circles of the imperial capital, Zhang Lingch fell in love with the imperial preceptor's house. In the entire imperial capital, apart from the imperial palace, the imperial preceptor's mansion was the most magnificent. It was built to be luxurious and magnificent. Except for a few places, everything else was to his liking. Unknown to the imperial preceptor, he had already visited his house in private. Having taken a good look at Zaze, the next question is how to get it. Zhang Lingch had a heart-to-heart talk with the imperial preceptor for a while. To sum it up, it was nothing more than a big stick plus sweet dates. What could the imperial preceptor do? Under his threats and inducements, he had no choice but to agree to give up the house. Of course you can't say this to the outside world, otherwise the national teacher will lose his face. After acquiring the house, Zhang Lingch began to decorate and rebuild it. Hey, go a little further to the left. Zhang Lingch was directing his servants to hang up red lanterns when he received news from Peixiang that the fleet had arrived at the dock of the imperial capital. He immediately ordered people to open the door of the house and prepare to welcome the bride into the house. However, he only waited until Peixiang and his servants arrived, but there was no sign of the bride. Where's the little cicada? Peixiang was also very worried, with a frown on his face. She is delayed by something, so let's prepare first. She must arrive before Xueting comes to pick her up. Fine. When Gu Switting's fleet went to the Shen family to deliver the betrothal gift, it attracted a lot of people's attention. What's more, he didn't hide the news that he was getting married at all, so everyone in the imperial capital basically knew about King Chen's wedding. As soon as this news came out, countless young women in the imperial capital were heartbroken. At first, although they knew that it was unlikely that they would become Princess Chen, they could still dream about it, but now they have no chance to even dream about it. All the women in Menpo were thinking bitterly in their hearts, who is the little goblin who shamefully hooked up with King Chen? They secretly followed the news of Prince Chen's palace, waiting for the legendary woman who was about to become Princess Chen to show up. As soon as the wedding fleet appeared on the pier, these women got first-hand news. To their regret, they did not see the newlywed bride at all. I was surprised by the boxes of dowry that were moved down. The original betrothal gift from King Chen was eye-popping enough, but they were still waiting to see how much dowry Princess Chen would have. If King Chen's betrothal gift was brought back intact, they would seize the opportunity to laugh at her severely. Even they secretly hope that this will happen. This way they can despise Princess Chen together. As if this would make their disillusioned hearts feel better. As parents, will Shen Jiangan and Peixiang give outsiders the opportunity to criticize their precious daughter? Even thinking about it, I knew it was impossible. The daughter may get married once in her life, so of course they must do their best to make her beautiful. So the people in the imperial capital were fortunate enough to experience what it means to get married at a sky-high price. When the dowry was carried into Prince Chen's mansion for the dowry display process, everyone who saw it was astonished. Only today do they realize how little knowledge they have. Because the dowry was too much, it couldn't even be placed in Prince Chen's palace, so it could only be left outside temporarily. Among the crowd watching the fun outside, there was a person who not only did it accidentally but also did it on purpose. In short, he bumped into a box and accidentally knocked open the lid of the box. Before he had time to stand up, he heard a gasp of air. When they looked up, they all had expressions of shock and speechlessness. "What's in the box?" He looked back. Then he also became a member of the aphasic army. I saw that the large agar wood box that was half a man's height actually contained round and bright white orbs. Each one was no smaller than the size of a lychee. The sparkling color was so dazzling that it almost blinded everyone's titanium alloy eyes. But later they discovered that this box of orbs in the dowry was nothing more than the lowest quality. In addition to the staggering variety of rare treasures, there are many things in the dowry that ordinary people have never seen. For example, the bed-sized turtle shell that was just moved from the car. This tortoise shell just looks big. Why can it be used as a dowry? Could it be used to boil turtle paste? Haha, the turtle paste made from such a big turtle shell is indeed extraordinary. Everyone pointed at the turtle shell and talked and laughed. At this moment, a person stood out from the crowd and almost threw himself in front of the turtle shell, his eyes full of fire. I once read in a book that the dragon has 9 sons, one of which is the dragon. The dragon will shed its shell when it reaches adulthood. This shell has 24 ribs, corresponding to the 24 solar terms, and these rib segments there is a big bead hidden in it, which has miraculous effects on beauty, detoxification, and longevity. I originally thought it was just a story made up by the ancients, but I didn't expect it to be true. He stroked the turtle shell gently, looking like he wanted to hold it in his arms. The boy carrying the turtle shell smiled at him and said, "Sir, you have good eyesight. This is what it means to admit." This time everyone was no longer shocked, but frightened. It turns out that this turtle shell is actually the shed shell of the legendary dragon. After that, there were many kinds of exotic treasures, such as the pearl tent, Qian mat, divine brocade quilt, Cheng Shui silk, jade piggy bank, dragon silk clothes, and Chongming pillow. These things can no longer be purchased by those who simply have money, but also by those who are powerful. Even the current emperor, even if he has the power of the world, would never be able to prepare such a dowry for his daughter. Even before Shenya's Hiran arrived, various legends about her had already spread in the imperial capital. Those who were secretly waiting to see the joke ended up feeling discouraged and did not dare to speak out easily. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 533. Shen Mansion. Pei Xiang was so anxious that he asked, "How come this kid hasn't arrived yet? I'm so anxious. It's already too late, 13 o'clock, dot. The wedding was scheduled for you hour, 17 o'clock, so it's no wonder she was anxious. Xiao Che, please ask her where she is." Zhang Lingch was about to take out the shadow stone when he suddenly felt something. When he looked up, he saw a dark shadow approaching rapidly, getting bigger and bigger. It was Shen Yazi who came desperately on the sky boat. As soon as she landed, she was caught by Pei Xiang. "You're finally here. Come with me to the house." Zhang Lingch looked up and down at Shen Yazi. Seeing that she was full of energy, he was relieved and waved to her, "Go quickly, there is not much time before the auspicious time." Although the wedding will be held at the hour, the groom goose wedding will definitely not wait until then, but will arrive at least an hour in advance to ensure that the bride can be returned to Prince Chen's mansion at the auspicious time to hold the wedding. So now Shenyazi has less than an hour to pack up. She was not in a hurry and let Pei Xiang pull her inside. Mom, where are Qingbao and the others? They have been taken to Prince Chen's mansion by Xueting a long time ago. Shenyazi was relieved. When Qingbao and the others arrived at Prince Chen's mansion, the whole manor would probably become theirs. Mom, walk slower, aren't you tired? Shenyazi saw Pei Xiang panting and felt a little tired for her. Pei Xiang turned around to see her walking slowly, and became very angry. He patted her on the arm and said, "The emperor is not in a hurry, but the is." Shenyazi saw that she was so small and so tired that a thin layer of sweat broke out on her face, so he simply picked her up and said, "Mom, don't worry, I'll clean it up quickly." After entering the room, Pei Xiang ordered his servants to move quickly. The big bathtub was quickly filled with hot water and sprinkled with flower petals. Mu Xiang Tang, Shenyazi can make it in 10 minutes. After all, her body is now clean and clear from head to toe, inside and out. Even if her skin is wrinkled, no dirt will come off. Just soaking it for a while is enough, it's more of a formality. After coming out, Shenyazi cast a spell directly, and there was no drop of water on his body. Getting dressed didn't take more than 2 minutes in total. She just put on the outer layer of wedding clothes and it would fit her body shape by itself. This piece of clothing is a spiritual treasure. In addition to its basic functions such as dust protection and defense, it can also change according to your body shape. The wedding dress is just one of its styles. After today, you can also change it into various colors and styles at will. There are a total of 36 styles. In other words, she can wear this piece of clothing in different styles for 36 days without wearing the same one. Shenyazi put on his clothes and walked around in front of Pei Xiang. "Mom, how are you?" Pei Xiang has cried because of the beauty. Crying and laughing at the same time, that of yours has never given me a proper wedding. I have lived 2 lifetimes and have never worn a wedding dress. But seeing how beautiful my baby is, I also complete. Pei Xiang led her to sit in front of the dressing table, stepped on the stool and combed her hair. Shenyazi was afraid that she would accidentally fall down, so he held her in his arms and sat in a strange posture. "Sisters Hizi, I'm here to be your bridesmaid," Han Beiluo walked in energetically. Strictly speaking, the bridesmaid must be a young and beautiful person of the same generation who has given birth to a son, and cannot be a remarried person. Only such bridesmaids can bear the title of All-American or Kwanhiran, which means perfect in every way. It is intended that the married daughter will also have a happy life. After finding such a candidate, some people will tell her fortune to see if it will be any hindrance to the newlywed bride. However, Shenyazi only has one relatively close female friend, Han Beiluo, and the rules depend on the actual situation, so Han Beiluo does his part. The moment he saw Shenyazi, Han Beiluo felt like he was seeing a fairy. She held her heart in her hands and stared blankly for a long time without moving her eyes. Shenyazi was amused and lifted her chin. "If I look at it again, my mouth will water." "Sisters Hizi, you are so beautiful, if I were a man, I would marry you too. As for whether you can marry or not, that is another matter." After dressing up, Shenyazi checked the time and saw that it was only 2 o'clock, so it was still early. Shenyazi took out a pile of food and a deck of cards. "Here, let's play cards for a while." Han Beiluo asked curiously, "Sisters Hizi, aren't you nervous at all?" Shenyazi stuffed a piece of fried chicken into his mouth while dealing with the cards. "Don't be nervous. Maybe it's because she and Gu Switting have already given birth to children, or maybe it's because she and he have already concluded the most pious and unbreakable bond of coexistence between monks. This wedding now is actually more of a declaration, so his mentality was very stable from beginning to end. Nervous? Non-existent. Zhang Lingch walked in and saw 3 people playing cards and eating around the table, and the corners of his mouth twitched fiercely. "What time has it been, and I am still in the mood to play cards?" Goose wedding is coming soon, how do you plan to test him? When the groom comes to pick up the bride, how can we let him pick her up without setting up obstacles? Shenyazi thought about it and suddenly laughed. Master, come here and I'll tell you. She looks like she is going to do something bad at first sight. Pei Xiang gave her a warning look. It's almost done, but don't mess with Xueteng. It is said that the mother-in-law looks at her son-in-law, the more she looks at him, the more she likes him. Pei Xiang was extremely satisfied with Gu Suiding, his son-in-law, so he directed all his words toward him. Shenyazi, Mom, you are worrying too much. How could I really embarrass him? She and Zhang Lingch chatted for a while, and after discussing it, Zhang Lingch went away with a smile. At around 3:30, Gu Suiding came. He was dressed in bright red wedding clothes and matched with that peerless appearance. He was truly unique and unique in the world. The horse is riding a divine horse. The whole body of the horse is dark black, only its forehooves are stained with a little snow color. If it runs fast, it will feel like walking on snow. Different from usual times, Gu Suiding today has a soft face and is always smiling. Just by looking at his expression, you can tell how good his mood is. Behind him was a sedan carried by 8 people, and after that, there was a long procession to welcome the bride. Along the way, I don't know how many people's attention I attracted. Arrived in front of Shen's mansion, Gu Suiding got off his horse and walked in vigorously, followed immediately by the groomsmen who followed him. The ones who acted as the groomsmen were none other than Gu Suiding's eldest nephews. The second Prince Gu Heng, the third Prince Gu Kai, the fifth Prince Gu Xie, and the sixth Prince Gu Wei. The eldest prince, also known as the Prince, Gu Chen, because he was too high-ranking to join in the fun, went directly to Prince Chen's mansion. The second Prince Gu Heng was the one who was unfortunately assassinated before and happened to be saved by Shenyazi. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 534. The third prince, Gu Kai, has the most out-of-the-box personality among the princes, and he also prides himself on being romantic. How could he be left out of such excitement? He was the first one to propose to be the best man to his little uncle Gu Suiding. The fourth prince has been frail and sick since he was a child, and he likes to be quiet. It is rare to have a glass of wedding wine at Prince Chen's mansion today, and it is impossible for him to be the best man. The fifth prince, Gu Xinggren, is as his name suggests. He has a stingy temperament and likes yellow and white things. His dream is to do business all over the Tianyuan kingdom. He was the first to pay attention to Princess Chen. When he learned that his future aunt was actually a super rich woman, he made up his mind to show his courtesy to her. Perhaps when the little aunt is happy, she will give him some rare treasures. He didn't dare to expect the orbs in the dragon turtle shell, pearls the size of lychees, and a piggy bank inlaid with emeralds and gems. The sixth Prince Gu Wei is a fat guy and a big foodie, the same one Shenyazi met in the secret realm of Penglai before. It's just that he doesn't know yet that the woman who is about to become his little aunt is Sister Shen, whom he has always longed for. 2 of the 4 princes and groomsmen who came here knew Shenyazi, so it can be said that they were very destined. As soon as Gu Suiding dismounted, the boy in front of Shen's mansion lit the firecrackers he had prepared. Amidst the crackling of firecrackers, Gu Suiding crossed the threshold with a smile on his face. The princes following him looked around curiously. Speaking of which, this is the first time they have stepped into the former imperial prefect's mansion. The reason why they rushed to be the best groomsmen was because they wanted to have a look at the imperial preceptor's mansion. The former imperial preceptor's mansion was mysterious and unfathomable in their eyes, but now it has become their aunt's home, which can't help but surprise them. Zhang Lingch was waiting for Gu Suiding in the front hall. When he saw him come in, he smiled slightly and pointed to a small, palm-high transparent bottle on the table. Your Majesty, it is not that simple to take the bride away. In this first step, Please drink all the wine in the bottle. Others don't know, doesn't Goose Whitting still know? That bottle is clearly Qingbao's sky-swallowing bottle. Looking small, the volume inside is as big as a room. Looking from the outside, it is actually filled with wine. He expected that the wine must not be ordinary wine. If he really drank this bottle, he might not be able to leave today. But before he could speak, the second Prince Gukai stood up first. He waved his fan and said, "It's just a bottle of wine. I'll do it." He is quite a drinker. How can he be tempted by a small bottle of wine? Of course, he is not stupid. Since Zhang Lingch can regard this bottle of wine as the first test for his uncle, it means that this wine must be extraordinary. But no matter how unusual it is, it's still wine. He is not afraid of wine. Let alone such a small bottle, even if it is a large bucket, he is not afraid. Poor Gukai, how did he know that that small bottle was actually a sky-swallowing bottle that was as big as a room? Even if he drank to death, he could not drink up all the wine in it. As he walked over, Goose Whitting patted him on the shoulder and said, "Take it easy." Gukai raised his eyebrows. "Uncle, just look at me." Zhang Lingch didn't say anything, just looked at them with a smile. Gukai picked up the bottle and took a big gulp. He wiped his mouth and looked at the bottle. Huh? Is it his imagination? Why do you feel that the wine in the bottle has not decreased at all? He took another big gulp, and then found that there was still no less wine in the bottle. This is simply unscientific. He doesn't believe it yet. Gukai drank wildly. After a while, he burped from the wine, his head was already drunk, and his face was red. "Hold the wine bottle in front of me," but I couldn't see clearly. He swayed and was about to fall down. Gu Hong quickly helped him with his eyesight and hands. The bottle of wine was in Zhang Lingch's hand. He shook it and looked at the bottle with only a slight layer missing. It seems that the third prince can't do it. Who will come next? By this time, the other princes also knew that the bottle containing wine was not simple. Gu Hong put Gukai on the chair and said in a deep voice, "I'll come." In the end, several princes took turns to come on stage, but they couldn't drink all the wine in the bottle, so Goose Whitting had to do it by himself. Of course, it was impossible to really drink the wine. He just pretended to drink it. In fact, the moment the wine reached his mouth, he was transferred to the chaotic space. Zhang Lingch glanced at him with a half-smile but said nothing about his blatant cheating. The test during the wedding reception is, to put it bluntly, just to add some fun to the marriage, and is not really meant to embarrass the groom. Goose Whitting continued to the backyard where Shen Yizi was. The number of groomsmen following him was reduced from the original 4 to 1. Except for Gu Hong, the other 3 were all drunk. I was being given sobering soup by the maid in the front hall. The second test was beyond Goose Whitting's expectations. "Sing a love song," he repeated Zhang Lingch's request with some surprise. Zhang Lingch nodded. That's right. He took out the photo stone in front of Goose Whitting and got ready to record it. Goose Whitting held his forehead and saw that it was Gigi's idea. To be honest, it is a bit difficult for Goose Whitting to sing love songs in public. But when he thought that he was singing for his knowledge, he had no worries. He even aimed at the photo stone, trying to let it better record his singing posture. After all, knowing is something to look at. After finishing a love song, Zhang Lingch led them through the central hall and outside Shen Yizi's courtyard. There was a flower pot at the door of the courtyard, with nothing in it. Goose Whitting was confused. What is the test this time? Zhang Lingch revealed the answer: put a drop of blood into the basin. Goose Whitting did not hesitate and did as he was told. Just as his blood dripped into the soil in the flower pot, a tender green seedling broke out of the soil, sprouted branches at an extremely fast speed, grew to the height of a person, and then formed a bud, which bloomed in the blink of an eye. All this was completed in just a few seconds, which was amazingly fast. The flowers are bright red in color, so pure and intense that they are so beautiful and even a little coquettish. Zhang Ling said with his sleeves, "This flower is called the Emperor's flower, and it blooms only for lovers. This is my test for you, and it is also a wedding gift for you and Xiao's Hizi. Okay, now you can go in." Gu Swiding looked at the breathtakingly beautiful imperial daughter's flower, thanked her, picked up the flower, and held it for Gu Heng. From then on, this was his favorite flower. In the room, Shen Yizi received the message from Zhang Lingsh, and he and Han Bailuo quickly cleared the table, covered their heads, and sat down on the bed in an orderly manner. When Gu Swiding stepped in, what he saw was his bride sitting on the wedding bed, quietly waiting for his bride. With his heart racing, he strode forward and came to Shen Yizi. "Zizi, I'm here. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome." Author, 955. Chapter 535. At the entrance of Prince Chen's mansion, there was an endless stream of guests coming to congratulate him. One pill of the national master's he lily pill. Master Chang Feng congratulated Canaan Bodhisattva on a string. Zhao Jia he, a pair of winged birds. The immortal medical sect. Lord of the Southern Territory. The leader of the Netherworld sect. The owner of Kyandeo Lake. The head of the Pei family. Those legendary figures who are rarely seen in ordinary times, all gathered at Prince Chen's mansion on this day to congratulate King Chen and Princess Chen on their great happiness. It was a feast for the eyes of everyone. At first, everyone thought that these guests came just for the sake of King Chen, but as a result, Master Chang Feng, the head of the Netherworld sect, the owner of Kyandeo Lake, and the head of the Pei family all sat on the seats of the natal family. This shocked many people's jaws. But then they thought about it, and everyone took it for granted. Princess Chen's natal family, the Shen family, could afford such a dowry for her. Is it an ordinary family? The appearance of these big shots confirmed this speculation. As the general manager of the palace, Lin Chen was extremely busy today. While leading the guests to the banquet, he also arranged for people to properly arrange the gifts sent by the guests. At the same time, he had to deal with some emergencies from time to time, even sitting down to drink. No chance to drink tea. Not only to drink tea, but also to go to the toilet, I have to hold it in. When the guests were almost here, Gu Swiding, who went to pick up the bride, came back. Lin Chen could only continue to hold back his urge to pee and stare at the wedding process. At the door, Gu Swiding dismounted, took Shen Yizi out of the 8-carriage sedan, squeezed her hand, handed her the end of the red silk, and told her, "Be careful where you step." Shen Yizi was speechless. Did he forget that she was a monk and could use her spiritual sense to find the way? "I will never fall again." But I still said Gu Swiding held the other end of the red silk and walked in step by step with Shen Yizi. Among the people watching the ceremony, Chiu's Honggaya secretly recorded the entire wedding process with a photo stone. This is an important task of his trip. Shen Jiangan was unable to attend his daughter's wedding, so he could only make up for his regret by watching the images in the photo stone afterwards. Gu Swiding and Shen Yizi walked along the festive red carpet and arrived at the central hall. At the top, two people sit, which is today's high hall. One of them is Gu Swiding's elder brother, who is now the Holy Emperor. The other one is Master Luo Yao Yao. In order not to embarrass his disciple, Luo Yao Yao rarely took off his tattered leather jacket and put on a new navy blue robe. Hair and beard have also been specially taken care of, and he really looks like an outsider. As for Shen Yizi, Shen Jiangan couldn't come, and Pei Xiang, she felt that it was better not to come out to cause suspicion and discussion due to her image. However, Luo Yao Yao was originally Shen Yizi's master. He could be said to be Jiaotang on Gu Swiding's side, or on her side. What's more, with Chiu Konggaya and other family members here, no one dared to make random comments about why the Shen family didn't come. It's just that the Shen family feels more and more inscrutable. In the hall, Luo Yaoyao's eyes widened when he saw Gu Swiding and Shen Yizi walking in hand. When the two newlyweds stood still and the auspicious moment came, the ceremony officer said loudly, "Bow down to heaven and earth dash." Two bows to the high hall. Gu Swiding and Shen Yizi slowly bent towards each other. At this moment, there was a commotion outside. I saw two big snow-white birds circling over the palace. They were the pair of birds sent by the Zhao family. Originally, the pair of birds were locked in a cage, but they were released at some point. If that was all, that was all. The key point was that the head of one of the winged birds had turned green, as if he was wearing a cuckold. The winged bird is a symbol of the steadfast relationship between the couple. Now that one of the bird's heads has turned green, doesn't it mean that Princess Chen has cuckolded Prince Chen? Hiss, it's scary to think about it carefully. The people watching the ceremony looked at the newlyweds in the hall, and their eyes became very subtle. Qiu Kongai was so angry that he wanted to kill someone. How kind of the Zhao family to trouble the young lady on such a happy day. He was about to rush forward, catch the two birds and break their necks, but he received a message from Shen Yizi, "Uncle Qiu, don't be impulsive. I'll deal with it after I finish saluting Xueting first. Please keep an eye on those two birds for me first." Bird. Qiu's Honggaya had no choice but to endure it and at the same time stopped Master Chang Feng, the head of the Pei family and others who wanted to take action. He said to them, "Zhizi asked us not to move and wait for her to deal with it." In the hall, Gu Swiding and Shen Yizi seemed not to notice any changes outside, and went through the wedding process as if nothing had happened. Infected by this couple, the restless guest felt as if he was the odd one out and did not dare to comment any more. After all, neither of these couples is easy to mess with. As soon as the couple's worship was over, Shen Yizi pulled off the hijab on his head, revealing a face that was so beautiful that it was so beautiful. Her pretty face was frosty, and her charming flaming red lips raised a sneer, which made people's hearts beat instantly. Before everyone could recover from Princess Chen's peerless beauty, her figure had already swept away, too fast for anyone to capture. Gu Swiding did not rush out, but quickly formed a formation talisman with both hands and patted it on the ground. Bright white formation patterns appeared on the ground, the formation symbols melted into it, and in an instant, the formation was activated. The entire Prince Chen's mansion was covered with formations. At this moment, in the sky and on the earth, no one, not even a mosquito, can even think of flying out. This formation was set up by Gu Swiding in advance. On such a big day as a wedding, there are many people and who knows if there will be any unexpected situations. Originally, it was just in case, but he didn't expect to use it, but someone happened to hit the muzzle of the gun. Shen Yizi followed the clouds and suddenly came outside. Two vines shot out from his hands, entangled the two winged birds hovering in the sky, and pulled them down hard. The bird screamed and hit the ground hard, losing most of its life. Everyone trembled. Originally, their first thought when they saw Shen Yizi was, "Princess Chen is so beautiful." But now Princess Chen is so violent. Shen Yizi got closer to the green-headed bird and inspected it. He smiled in his heart. Sure enough, the bird had been fed some kind of medicine in advance, and after a period of time, the feathers on its head would turn green. The person giving the gift uses this method purely to disgust people. She could even imagine what kind of rumors would spread in the imperial capital after today. It's a pity that the person giving the gift is so naive. Do you think she and Gu Swiding would deal with it secretly out of shame and not make a big deal out of it? If they do this, they are playing into the hands of the gift giver. Like this kind of romantic incident, the more it is concealed, the more it attracts people to explore. She wanted to bring out the demons and monsters in the darkness openly and openly. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 536. Shen Yizi stepped on the green-headed bird and asked Lin Chen, "Who sent this bastard? Hunted beast?" Poof. Someone immediately laughed. Looking at her domineering action of stepping on the bird, many people became starry-eyed. This Princess Chen is really sassy and beautiful, nothing like what they imagined. Goose Whitting had already walked to Shen Yizi and held one of her hands. Lin Chen was almost unsteady on his feet because of the cold aura of the couple. It was sent by the Zhao family. Zhao family, the queen's natal family and the prince's maternal family. At this time, Prince Gu Chen had to stand up and said, "Little aunt, I'm afraid there is some misunderstanding. Why don't you leave this matter to me? I will definitely investigate and get to the bottom of it, and give you and Uncle Chen Wang an explanation." By the time he found out, the daylilies were already cold. At that time, the imperial capital still doesn't know how the news of today will be spread. The purpose of the person who gave the gift has been achieved. Even if it is found out at that time, what is the use? She had to take advantage of today to find that man out. Goose Whitting gently rubbed his thumb on the back of her hand to express comfort, with a sharp chill in his tone. "Prince, it's better not to get involved in this matter. It concerns the reputation of me and the princess. Today, there must be a solution to this matter finished." Gu Chen has always been a little afraid of this little Uncle Wang. Although he is a few years older than him, this Uncle Wang is a ruthless man who has killed people without blinking an eye at the age of 9, so he has always kept a distance from him. Today it was also about his maternal family, so he had to stand up. But if you let it go, the prince couldn't help but look at the emperor. If there is anyone here who can defeat Uncle Wang, it is none other than my father. Unfortunately, the emperor not only said nothing, but also gave him a warning look, obviously telling him to ignore the matter. Even his father didn't care. The prince didn't make any unnecessary struggles and didn't speak again. Shen Yizi looked around. His eyes that seemed to have been tempered by ice and fire were so beautiful and dazzling that people dared not look directly at them. Where are the Zhao family members? For a while, the scene was so quiet that you could hear a pin drop, and no one came forward for a long time. Shen Yizi chuckled, "What, do you dare to do it or not?" She kicked the green-headed bird, sending such a furry thing over here. It seems that the Zhao family has a lot of opinions about Prince Chen's mansion. "Princess Chen, don't talk nonsense," one person stood out from the crowd. Her figure is slim and her face is beautiful. Although she is far from being compared with Shen Yizi, she can still be regarded as a beauty. It was Pei Yuan, no, it should be called Qingluan, the person who was once rescued by Shen Yizi, but betrayed her and gave her a knife when she was unconscious. Zhang Lingch came to the imperial capital not only to confirm the house for Shen Yizi to get married, but also to deal with Qingluan, who had replaced her. It's just that Qingluan was very cunning and could be cruel to herself, so Zhang Lingch escaped without noticing. But he soon caught up with her again, and was about to kill her with one palm, when Zhao Fulan appeared again. "The enemy of my enemy is my friend." Just because Qingluan is the person Zhang Lingch wants to kill, Zhao Fulan will not sit idly by. In addition to being the young master of the immortal medicine sect, Zhao Fulan is also the daughter of the head of the Zhao family. The head of the Zhao family felt sorry for his daughter's broken leg and was worried about her, so he sent 2 guards around her to protect her safety. These 2 guards, one is in the late stage of qi refining and the other is in the middle stage of qi refining, both have good strength. Zhao Fulan rescued Qingluan and ordered 2 guards to stop Zhang Lingch. Of course she wanted to kill him even more. She wanted to get rid of anyone who had anything to do with Shen Yizi. But she also knew that Zhang Lingch was someone that even her master didn't take seriously, so she couldn't touch him yet. After rescuing Qingluan, Zhao Fulan quickly returned to Zhao Mansion. The Zhao Mansion is heavily guarded, and this is the imperial capital. Here, it is not just the strong who can do whatever they want. If things get serious, there's no telling that Xiaoji's wedding in a few days will also be affected. Zhang Lingch had this in mind and did not force his way into the Zhao mansion. Let that Qingluan live a few more days, and wait until Xiaoji's wedding is over before he can deal with her again. But he never expected that because of his temporary worries, he would actually cause more trouble for Xiaozi. Zhang Lingch looked at Qingluan coldly. In his heart, she was already a dead person. Shen Yizi looked at Qingluan, a little surprised at first, but soon his expression became calm. Qingluan, long time no see. When did you become a member of the Zhao family again? It was this calm attitude of not taking her seriously that instantly set Qingluan on fire. She took a step forward and pointed at Zhang Lingch accusingly. Princess Chen is so forgetful. She just sent this person to kill me a few days ago, and now she has forgotten? What if I hadn't been killed by Miss Fulan of the Zhao family? Saved, I have long become a ghost in the ghost world. Hiss. Isn't this the sixth girl of the Pei family? Why did Princess Chen send people to kill her? Some people asked. Shen Yizi raised his lips and smiled, clapped his hands. That's a good question. Why should I send someone to kill this Miss Pei Lu? Meeting her half-smiling eyes, Qingluan's heart skipped a beat. Oops, why did she shake this matter out in a moment of excitement? Although Shen Yizi had a bad reputation for sending people to kill her, upon closer inspection, it was even more disgusting that she killed Shen Yizi and took away her tokens to replace her identity. And the fundamental purpose of her coming to Prince Chen's mansion this time was to cause havoc, not to break up with Shen Yizi here. She thought that Shen Yizi wouldn't be able to come forward because it was her wedding today, and Gu Suiting would suppress the matter of Bianiao as soon as possible. In this way, by the time Gu Suiting came to investigate the matter, she would have already left Chen the palace. With Zhao Fulan's protection, Gu Suiting could not easily touch her. And most of the guests who came today are extraordinary. No matter how powerful Prince Chen's palace is, it can't stop so many people from talking. By then, won't the story of Princess Chen cuckolding Prince Chen spread out? Zhao Fulan ordered her to do this, but she herself didn't want to see Shen Yizi marry Gu Suiting and be her Princess Chen happily ever after. She would be happy to spoil the wedding. Who would have thought that Shen Yizi would not follow common sense at all? He lifted his hijab just after praying to heaven and earth, and went to investigate the matter personally, without even giving the prince the face. And the escape talisman that Zhao Fulan gave her beforehand didn't work for some reason, but it didn't work. It couldn't be activated no matter what, so she had no choice but to stand up. Let me tell you all about this matter. Pei Qinlin, the head of the Pei family, Pei Xiang's eldest brother, said loudly. This girl is not the sixth girl of my Pei family, but an impostor. The real sixth girl of my Pei family is Princess Chen. What? What? Princess Chen is the sixth girl of the Pei family. As soon as this shocking big melon came out, everyone was not calm. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 537. Pei Qinlin continued, Princess Chen is the daughter of my biological sister. She was in poor health when she was a child, so she was taken away by this Zhongshan man and adopted as a disciple, and she practiced in Qiandao Lake. He gestured to Zhang Lingch. Until 5 years ago, Princess Chen returned to Beijing with a token and rescued an orphan the way, this girl Qingluan. Pei Qinlin explained in detail the entanglement between Shen Yizi and Qingluan. These were all things Zhang Lingch told him before he came to deal with Qingluan. Pei Qinlin didn't believe it at first, but after Zhang Lingch made various proofs and took out the photo stone and asked Pei Xiang to talk to him, Pei Qinlin couldn't help but believe it. A bit later, Gu Suiting came forward to confirm the matter, and Pei Qinlin believed it 70%. For the remaining 2 or 3 points, I feel that these things are too incredible. My sister Pei Xiang, who has been dead for many years, is actually reincarnated. The niece who came to the door with a token turned out to be a fake. It wasn't until Pei Xiang and Pei Qinlin met before the wedding, and Pei Qinlin came into contact with his sister in flesh and blood, that he really believed it. At this time, as the head of the Pei family, he exposed all the things Qingluan had done, and his credibility was undoubtedly very high. No wonder Princess Chen wanted to get rid of her. If I was killed so miserably, I wouldn't be able to spare that person. I didn't expect that a girl who looked quite delicate could be so cruel. Princess Chen was kind enough to save her, but she ended up like that. Speaking of which, who is the man in black robe? Why did he want to harm Princess Chen? Didn't Qingluan get married to Zhao Fulan of the Zhao family after being kicked out by the Pei family? Is it possible that the black robe is related to the Zhao family? Today the Zhao family asked her to send a pair of miscellaneous feathered birds with the intention of ruining the wedding of King Chen and Princess Chen. Is the Zhao family openly opposing the Prince Chen's palace? I have to say that the public's eyes are sharp. The man in black robe is indeed inseparable from Zhao Fulan, but it is not with the Zhao family behind her, but with the Immortal Medicine sect. However, the Immortal Medicine sect has always been good at running the business and has a very good reputation among the people. No one would believe it even if he said it, so Pei Qinlin did not mention the Immortal Medicine sect just now and only targeted Qingluan. If he doesn't say it, everyone will keep thinking about it. Qingluan is just an orphan. How can she be able to replace Princess Chen and stay in the Pei mansion for so long without revealing her secret? Once you think about it deeply, you can't hide many things. Goose Whitting did not give Qingluan a chance to defend herself, and directly ordered, "Take her and lock her up, and then send these two miscellaneous birds to the Zhao family, and ask the Zhao family head, he sent such a gift to me on my wedding day, what does it mean?" The Zhao family has always been arrogant and domineering because they are the queen's mother's family and the prince's mother's family. Even today at Prince Chen's wedding, they only sent a servant like Qingluan. It can be said that they did not take Prince Chen's palace seriously at all. As Qingluan was about to open his mouth, the guards covered his mouth and dragged him down. Her eyes were quenched and stared in the direction of Shenyazi, filled with crazy unwillingness and resentment. When others saw the look in her eyes, they became even more disgusted. Having done so many evil things, how can you still have the nerve to resent Princess Chen? Yo! A clear chirping sound came from a distance. Everyone subconsciously looked around and saw a white dot appearing in the sky. The dot quickly grew in size. As they got closer, people discovered that it was a big snow-white bird. No, not one, but a pair. It's just because they are close together, winging each other, and one bird has one wing, that they look like one bird. Bi-wing bird, I don't know who screamed. Others suddenly realized, this is a flying bird. Compared with this one, the pair sent by the Zhao family earlier are indeed hybrid birds. The pair sent by the Zhao family are only slightly larger than swans. Their fur looks white from a distance, but up close, you can see a lot of light gray miscellaneous fur, not to mention that one head at the back has turned green. The most important thing is that they each fly their own way, which cannot be called a competition at all. But the current pair is different. Their bodies are close together, as if they were born together. The frequency and amplitude of their wings are exactly the same. If they hadn't separated later, it would be doubtful that this is one bird. Their feathers are so white that they reflect in the sunlight, as if there is a shimmer in them, and they are very elegant. The few long snow satin-like feathers at the back of the tail simply have a wholly special effect. When it flew over Prince Chen's mansion, it cast a large shadow. Only when you look closely can you see how big they can cover a small house. I would like to be a winged bird in the sky, and a twig on the earth. Looking at this pair of real flying birds, everyone suddenly remembered this poem. But where did this pair of winged birds come from? It's impossible for them to fly here on their own, right? Due to the appearance of this pair of winged birds, the previous incident of the green-headed bird was completely forgotten by everyone. What happened now? Shenyazi, the bride, could no longer stay here. She continued the previously interrupted wedding process and was sent to the bridal chamber. King Bao, Yuan Bao, and Nian Nian were originally the enthroned boys, but they waited until their parents didn't come, so they started playing by themselves, and then fell asleep. Shenyazi looked at the three little guys who were sleeping crookedly, and his depressed heart was immediately healed. He leaned over and kissed each of them, smelling the milky fragrance on their bodies, and felt extremely comfortable. Goosewitting came over with a wine glass and called her softly, Zhizi. Shenyazi turned his head and looked at the man who was as handsome as under the light. His heart became restless and he stood up and rushed towards him. Goosewitting was pushed back a few steps by her and almost spilled the wine in the glass in his hand. Shenyazi held his face and kissed him directly. After a long time, their lips parted, and Goosewitting's voice was hoarse, Zhizi, we haven't drank the henna wine yet. This is an essential process for a wedding. Shenyazi drank the hexen wine with him while sitting on his body. Outside the house, Lin Chen said bravely, Your Majesty, they are still waiting for you to propose a toast. Not just Your Majesty, there are also a group of big guys sitting at the princess's natal home. They cannot be treated lightly. Goosewitting let go of Shenyazi with some difficulty, and rubbed her lips repeatedly with his fingertips, Zhizi, I'll come as soon as I go. Shenyazi slipped out of his arms like a fish, tapped his chest with his fingertips, and smiled a little gloatingly, Go quickly. Goosewitting caught her naughty finger, brought it to her mouth, kissed her, looked at her deeply, and then reluctantly walked out. As soon as Goosewitting walked forward, several princes came running towards him. Originally, they had made a lot of preparations for the wedding ceremony tonight, but now none of them dared to use it or didn't want to use it. The sixth prince, Gu Wei, discovered that the newly appointed aunt was Sister Shen whom he had longed for, so naturally he would not tease her again. As for the 2, 3, and 5 others, they were simply restrained by Shenyazi's domineering attitude and did not dare to act arrogantly in front of her for fear of being punished by her. Judging from the speed and casual spellcasting that the little ant showed previously, we know that her strength is definitely not low. They'd better not go up to deliver food. They can't have a wedding ceremony, but they can take the opportunity to get closer to their little ant. They heard from their sixth brother that their little ant is a superb cook and the food she makes is so delicious that it makes people cry. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 538. At the wedding banquet, Goosewitting drank down 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8 people, then acted like he was too drunk to stand, and left the banquet with Lin Chen's support. After getting away from the hustle and bustle in the front yard, Goosewitting straightened up in a second and said to Lin Chen very clearly and calmly, Go to the front to greet the guests, I will go back by myself. Lin Chen of course obeyed, Yes, Your Majesty. Goosewitting strode towards his yard, and saw his master leaning there at the entrance of the yard, holding a book in his hand and reading with relish, with a kind of obscene smile on his face. Master. Luo Yao Yao immediately closed the book in his hand and coughed lightly, Apprentice, you are back. Come, this is a wedding gift from Master. I guarantee you will like it. He stuffed the book in his hand into Goosewitting's arms. I saw on the cover that it read Album of the Perfect Principles of Yin and Yang of Heaven and Earth and Human Ethics. As soon as Goosewitting opened it, his eyes were burned. What is the Atlas of the Yin and Yang of Heaven, Earth, and Human Ethics? It is clearly spring, palace, and picture. Even though he had always been calm in situations, he couldn't help but feel that the things in his hands were very hot at this moment. Luo Yao Yao rarely saw him looking so embarrassed, so he smiled and took out a thin booklet from his arms. This is a book of dual cultivation techniques. Master, I have treasured it for many years. When the two books are used together, the effect is absolutely extraordinary. Fortunately, you and Yazi are my disciples, otherwise I would not be willing to take it out to you. Okay. La, come in quickly, don't keep Yazi waiting. Finally, Luo Yao Yao winked at Gu Switting, and Shi Shiren left. Gu Switting's left hand shows in picture, and his right hand practices both exercises. His whole body is in bad shape. With a thought in his mind, the booklet in his hand disappeared and was taken into the chaotic space. Before he even stepped into the new house, Gu Switting smelled the aroma of hot pot. Could it be that Zizi had prepared a pot and was waiting for me to come back and eat with her? Thinking like this, Gu Switting became even more eager. Unexpectedly, when he stepped into the room, he saw his eldest nephews gathered around a table, eating steaming hot and sweating profusely. They stuck out their tongues and shouted spicy while using their chopsticks. Not far behind, and even almost staged a chopstick war. And Zizi was constantly adding dishes to the pot, and placing the hot dishes on the plates in front of the boys, with a caring tone, "Eat slowly, there are still a lot of them. Do you want some iced sour plum soup? This is the most thirst-quenching and spicy food." Gu Hung, "Thank you, little ant, let me do it. You have been tired for so long." Gu Kai, "Yes, yes, auntie, you are so kind." Gu Wei quickly swallowed the ball in his mouth. "Sister Shen, I still want to eat that fat beef roll." Gu Xie, "Little ant, how do you prepare the hot pot base? And how can these dishes be so delicious? I have never eaten such a delicious hot pot in my whole life. I have a hunch that if I open a restaurant like this, the hot pot restaurant will definitely make a lot of money. Auntie, are you interested in cooperating with me? You only need to provide the recipes and ingredients, and I will do the rest for you. Then you will make money. Let's split it up. How about I split it up and you split it up?" Such a long list of words did not delay him from grabbing food, and his plate was filled with food again. Shen Yazi was about to speak when he saw Gu Switting standing at the door. "Shueting, are you back?" For a moment, the four eldest nephews seemed to have been pressed on the pause button, and their movements were all stuck. Gu Switting came over, and Gu Hung, who was sitting next to Shen Yazi, quickly stood up and said, "Uncle Wang, sit here." "Is it delicious?" After sitting down, Gu Switting glanced at his four eldest nephews. Although his face was very calm, even showing a trace of red due to drinking, he looked much softer than usual, and there was no emotion in his tone, but several eldest nephews still smelled a hint of danger in his seemingly plain words. Gu Kai and Gu Xie didn't care about eating, they stood up and bowed to him honestly. Only Gu Wei, a big foodie, didn't seem to notice the strange atmosphere of the scene at all. He still sat there and competed with the meatballs. When he heard Gu Switting's question, he said very sincerely, "It's delicious. It's especially delicious. Uncle, you have no idea dash." Gu Kai kicked him. "This silly boy, couldn't you see that Uncle Chen Wang was unhappy? Still eating there." Shen Yazi couldn't help but laugh when he saw his eldest nephews who were still lively just now, like a mouse meeting a cat. He scooped a bowl of soup from the nourishing clear soup pot and put it in front of him. "Here, finish the soup and go get some wine." Jing-er. Looking at the steaming soup in front of him, Gu Switting raised his eyebrows and smiled, just like the ice and snow melting and the golden light breaking through the clouds, which made several eldest nephews look straight at him. The man in front of him with a bright smile, is he really their little uncle? Looking at Shen Yazi again, the four of them showed admiration in their eyes. She is indeed a little ant. In front of her, even if she is as cold and aloof as Uncle Wang, he will turn into a gentle person. What kind of divine love is this? With the little ant here, they don't need to be afraid of Uncle Chen Wang, right? Gu Hung and the others sat down again tentatively, while Gu Switting was busy drinking the hot soup that Ji served for him, and was too lazy to argue with them. After all, he is his eldest nephew. How can he really miss a hot pot meal with them? With Shenyazi by his side, Gu Switting's whole aura became gentler, and Gu Heng and the others were no longer afraid of him. Look, Uncle Chen Wang even cooked the dishes for his little aunt with his own hands and poured her fruit wine. He looked at her with such tenderness in his eyes that he almost fed it to her mouth. So Uncle Chen Wang is not scary at all. After finishing the hot pot meal, Gu Heng and the others no longer had the fear of Gu Switting that they had in the past. Even dared to joke with him. Uncle Chen Wang, as the saying goes, a good night is worth 1,000 pieces of gold, so we won't disturb you and your little aunt's bridal chamber. Gu Kai laughed and pulled the others away. However, it is impossible to leave. They are still waiting to hear the corner, he. So as soon as they walked out of the door, the four of them walked to the window of the new house with their feet and waist in unison, holding their breath and waiting to hear the goblins fighting. However, how could their little moves be hidden from the two people in the room? Gu Switting pulled Shenyazi into his arms and breathed into her ear, "Zhizi, let's go inside." The inside he is talking about is naturally not the inner room, but the space. Shenyazi also had this intention, but before going, she put up another barrier. Outside the window, the four brothers silently exchanged glances. Why hasn't it started yet? There is no movement at all. Isn't this strange? Although it is already late autumn, there are still a lot of mosquitoes outside, especially in the nooks and crannies. Pa, Gu Wei slapped a mosquito to death. Looking at the mosquito with blood in his palm, he felt sorry for himself for a second. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 539. This mosquito is really poisonous. It sucks such a big mouthful of his blood. How much food do you have to eat to make up for it? Gu Heng, how about we leave? As a monk, although his cultivation is not very good, he can still prevent mosquitoes. However, he feels that it will be useless if he and the others wait like this. Uncle Chen Wang and my little aunt are much more advanced than me. They must have noticed that we are hiding here. They may have set up a formation or something. How can we hear there? Well, what's going on in the bridal chamber? Gu Kai closed his fan and said, "Second brother, why didn't you tell me earlier? We've made us squat here and feed mosquitoes for a long time." Gu Heng touched his nose. Could he say that he had just thought of it? The four of them put their arms around each other and left with regret. Gu Kai, it's not in vain that I had a hot pot that was so delicious that I cried today. I'll tell the fourth child when I go back and make him hungry. Goose, yeah, oh, I have to take the first step. The other three brothers shouted in unison, "What are you going to do?" "Perfect my hot pot plan." The three brothers looked at each other and said, "Wait for us, we also want to take shares." So the four brothers came to Goose Ye's Prince Yi's mansion together, got into the study, and discussed various matters about opening a hot pot restaurant. Asterisk. Shenyazi woke up and rolled into Gu Switting's arms as usual, but found that he had already stood up. She brought his pillow over and rubbed it, still immersed in the afterglow of sleep. In total, it has been more than 20 days since they entered the space, but it shouldn't be done outside yet, right? That's right, Shenyazi used super light to change the time field in space, making the time flow in space dozens of times slower than outside. Here, they have dozens of times more time. During this period of time, Gu Switting took her to study the two booklets given to him by the master, and the two of them lived a life without shame. Thinking of those clips, Shenyazi couldn't help but cover his face. However, the effect of dual cultivation is also very significant. She feels that the spiritual fluid in her dantian has become purer. Although it seems to be getting less, the quality is getting higher. If it was originally necessary to cast a fire dragon spell that required 10 units of spiritual fluid output, then now it only requires 5 units. If fighting against monks of the same level, she would undoubtedly have a great advantage. Humph, ha. Shen Yizi put on his clothes and stood up. When he came to the door, he saw Gu Swiding teaching Qingbao and 3 others how to practice swords in the yard. 3 carrot heads stood in a row, each holding an unedged wooden sword and gesticulating moves with serious expressions. Gu Swiding walked slowly behind them, taking action to correct their posture from time to time. Shen Yizi leaned against the doorpost and looked at it with a smile on his lips. Gu Swiding noticed it and said to the 3 carrot heads, "Keep this position and don't move. Whoever lasts the longest will be rewarded with a lift." After coaxing the 3 little guys, he strode up to Shen Yizi, hooked her waist and brought her into his arms, lowered his head and captured her lips. When the 2 finally separated, they saw Qingbao and the other 3 looking this way with their big eyes open. Seeing them looking over, the 3 of them quickly turned their heads. "Qingbao, Mom, we didn't peek at you kissing Daddy." Little friend Qingbao, who is already 4 years old, is no longer the ignorant child who thought that kissing means eating. Now he knows a lot more and is very weird. Shen Yizi smiled and punched Gu Swiding. "Your son will lie in front of us now, deal with him quickly." Gu Swiding responded with a smile, "I obey, princess." After Qingbao heard this, he immediately stopped posing and ran away screaming. Shen Yizi watched the father and son chasing each other and laughing, and the smile on his lips couldn't help but widen. After nearly a month of magical days in the space, Shen Yizi was reluctant to leave. However, it was probably getting dark outside, so she still took her family out. As the morning bell rang, the entire imperial capital ushered in a new day, and the streets became lively. In the palace, Shen Yizi, with the help of the maid, put on the layers of gorgeous and solemn princess clothes, and followed Gu Swiding into the palace to pay greetings to the emperor and the queen mother. As the new daughter-in-law of the royal family, this is a necessary process. Before going out, Shen Yizi told Qingbao and others worriedly, "You guys should stay in the house and don't run out by yourself. There are a lot of bad people out there, and there are also flower shooters. What they like most are fat and white people like you fat little kids. If you are kidnapped by Huazi, you will never see your father and mother again, you know." As they get older, the little guys become bolder and more naughty. If no one is watching, they will slip out from under their noses. The 3 Qingbao and Qingbao said in unison, "I know, Mom, Aunt Shen, dot. Stay at home and wait for me and your father to come back. I will bring you delicious food." Shen Yizi kissed the 3 little guys one by one. Finally, she glanced at Yi Chang on Qingbao's wrist, and Yi Chang sent her a message, "Don't worry, I'm here, nothing will happen to them." Gu Swiding held Shen Yizi's hand and led her into the carriage. On this trip, he gave up the carriage and squeezed into the carriage with Shen Yizi. Of course, the carriage in Prince Chen's mansion is by no means small, and it is very spacious inside, where you can even lie down and sleep. Shen Yizi was held on Gu Swiding's lap, lifting the car curtain and looking at the lively street scene outside. Gu Swiding rested his chin on her shoulder and looked with her. A sight that seemed very ordinary before became particularly interesting now that she was by his side. After entering the palace, Gu Swiding took Shen Yizi to the emperor's palace first and met with him. Although the emperor and Gu Swiding are brothers, there is an age difference of more than 20 years, and Gu Swiding has always been cold-tempered. When it comes to feelings, the 2 of them are not very close, but the emperor is still very affectionate towards Gu Swiding. Seeing the couple coming hand in hand, before they could bow down, he quickly said goodbye and asked someone to give him a seat. Then he taught Gu Swiding some experiences as a married man, asking him to be more tolerant and considerate. He also told Shen Yi, "If Swiding bullies his younger siblings in the future, feel free to come to me and I will make the decision for you." Of course, both sides know that this is just an official polite word. Shenyazi smiled and thanked him. The emperor gave the couple many things. The queen mother is still waiting for you two to serve tea, so I won't keep you any longer. Subsequently, Gu Swiding and Shenyazi went to the queen mother's palace. The queen, some high-ranking concubines, and several royal princesses are waiting here, just to meet the legendary Princess Chen. At this time, they had heard a lot of gossip about Princess Chen, and they were very curious about her. When the two of them stepped into the palace, everyone looked over. Of course, most of the eyes fell on Shenyazi. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 540. The queen smiled and said, "It's strange that our King Chen has moved everyone's heart. Princess Chen is so beautiful that even a woman like me is stunned." The imperial concubine, who had always been at odds with the queen, rarely refuted this time. Her fascinating eyes roamed around Shenyazi for a while, and she laughed at herself. "I used to pride myself on my beauty, but now I know that there is someone else out there." As soon as she said this, the others were so surprised. They didn't expect that the imperial concubine, who had always been narcissistic, would one day think that she was inferior to others. How did they know that the imperial concubine had long known that Shenyazi was the one who provided her with spiritual flowers? It was all thanks to Shenyazi that she was as beautiful as she was today and could look so young. Of course she would not be so stupid as to slander Shenyazi in public just to argue with the queen. The queen's eyes turned around between the imperial concubine and Shenyazi, her eyes flickering. Could it be that this had some kind of relationship with Shenyazi? The waiter served tea inside. Gu Swiding and Shenyazi took it and bowed to offer tea to the queen mother. The sixth princess Gu Yi, who was sitting next to the queen mother's feet, said, Aunt Wang is so arrogant. She didn't even kneel down when serving tea to the queen mother." Before Shenyazi could speak, Gu Swiding glanced at him coldly, accompanied by a pressure. Gu Yi's body sank suddenly, as if she had been pressed down by a mountain, and she fell down directly. Her head happened to be facing Shenyazi, as if she was kneeling down for her. Her face turned purple, and the shame in her heart almost overwhelmed her. Gu Swiding said quietly, "Gu Yi, do you know what the rules of our monks are?" Gu Yi was completely speechless. The queen was furious when she saw her precious daughter being humiliated like this. However, she did not dare to be presumptuous when facing Gu Swiding. The strong are respected. Among monks, it has always been the weak who kneel to the strong. Gu Swiding changed the topic, "But Zizi and I respect our mother and respect her as our elder, so we give her the courtesy of a junior." The queen mother was busy trying to smooth things over, shouting, "Yi is not sensible. As an uncle, you, don't argue with her." Hand out his hand to help Gu Yi. Gu Swiding relaxed his hold on her. The tea ceremony incident just passed. Gu Swiding introduced Shenyazi to the queen and others. The queen was angry and changed the gift she had prepared for a flying phoenix hairpin. The hairpin was exquisite and gorgeous. The queen personally inserted the hairpin into Shenyazi's temples and said with a warm smile, "I hope you two will be harmonious in the future, as soon as possible spread branches and leaves for the royal family." Shenyazi laughed in his heart. This queen was so aggrieved and hypocritical. She was obviously full of anger toward her and Gu Swiding, but she still had to put on a smile. Think she doesn't know that hairpin means to dismantle? The queen gave her the phoenix hairpin, which seemed generous, but in fact she secretly cursed her and Gu Swiding to be separated soon. However, Shenyazi had no intention of staying here longer. He just wanted to complete the process and leave here as soon as possible, so he did not expose the queen. When it is the turn of the imperial concubine, the gift given to her should be more thoughtful. It is a pair of matching pendants. The jade pendant is carved into the shape of a red carp. The carving is very exquisite. However, despite the size of the leaves, every detail is very lifelike. Even at a certain angle, There are faint water-colored ripples on the body, as if it were real. Just like swimming in water. The best thing is that this fish can be divided into two halves, each half is only the size of a little finger, and it still looks like a complete fish. The imperial concubine demonstrated it to Guswitting and Shenyazi, and handed the two halves of the fish into their hands respectively. This piece is of the same mind, and each of you has half of it. I hope that you and your husband will be of the same mind and be happy. Shenyazi liked this gift very much. Thank you, Your Majesty the concubine. The imperial concubine said angrily, why do you call me imperial concubine? You don't have to call me old. We are obviously of the same generation, so call me sister. Shenyazi said, sister. Hey, you're so good. The imperial concubine touched her head and took out the hairpin that the queen had inserted just now. This hairpin looks really unnecessary. It messed up your nice hair. I think it's better take it off. Ouch, this imperial concubine's sister is so strong. But she likes it. Shenyazi smiled and stuffed Fi Fengchai into the storage bag. The queen looked at these two people who were clearly squeezing her with every word and every word. She was so angry that her face turned green, but she didn't want to show off in public, and she almost felt hurt inside. After the noble concubine, it is the turn of the concubine Xian. Concubine Xian is the biological mother of the second prince Gu Heng. Gu Heng already knew last night that Shenyazi was brother Shen who had rescued him from the man in black before. After returning home, he sent a letter to his mother and concubine to inform her of the matter, so concubine Xian was very grateful to Shenyazi. The gift prepared with great care is a Tianshan snow lotus that is over 300 years old. Tianshan snow lotus has miraculous effects such as clearing heat and detoxifying, nourishing blood and aphrodisiac, prolonging life, and beautifying the skin. Shenyazi has long wanted to find one. As long as there is one, she can cultivate more, but she has never been able to find one. I didn't expect that concubine Xian would give it to me now. Thank you, Sister Xianfei, Shenyazi said sweetly, and secretly decided to return the favor. Concubine Xian, just like her title, is an elegant and gentle woman. She smiles when she hears this, like an elegant narcissus, just like it. Then came Li Fei, Mei Fei, and Lan Fei. The meeting gifts prepared by these people were quite satisfactory, and Shenyazi thanked them one by one. After that, a group of juniors came to pay homage to the little ant Shenyazi. At this time, the prince and several princes came over after leaving the morning court. Shenyazi gave everyone a brocade bag with gifts in it. It seems that everyone's gifts are the same, but in fact they are very different inside. The prince and Guyi were born from the queen, and their maternal family was the Zhao family. Shenyazi already had a grudge against Zhao Fulan of the Zhao family, and he also had no good impression of the queen, mother, and son. In addition, the previous troubles, as soon as they came out, it was naturally impossible for her to prepare too good a gift for them, as long as the meaning was more or less the same. After all, the prince was the crown prince of a country, and despite his profound knowledge, he managed his expression very well. He showed no curiosity about the gift given by his aunt Shenyazi, and simply put it into his sleeve pocket and looked at her. Expressed thanks. Guyi was more direct and immediately took out the gift inside. Originally, she was ready to show contempt for Shenyazi's gift, but when she saw that it turned out to be an dongju the size of a quail egg, she was speechless. She really likes this dongju. But she didn't want to show it at all, and deliberately curled her lips. It's just a broken bead, and I have the nerve to use it as a greeting gift. Shenyazi would not tolerate her bad temper. If the sixth princess doesn't like it, you can give it back to me. Guyi subconsciously held dongju in her hand. You have the nerve to take back the things you gave away? Aunt Wang, are you losing too much? Shenyazi smiled. It's better than feeding dogs. Oh, some people are worse than dogs. At least dogs know how to wag their tails at me, but some people get an advantage and behave well. You. You actually called me a dog, Guyi pointed at her fiercely. Shenyazi's expression turned cold and he stroked his sleeves. I always hate it when people point their fingers at me. Sixth princess, you really need some discipline. Seeing the scene, he was about to run in an uncontrollable direction. The prince shouted, that's enough, I. If you feel uncomfortable, go back to your palace and don't talk nonsense here.